The late afternoon sun was shining on Melrose Avenue. The light made the windows of fancy stores sparkle like gold. This was a place where people cared more about looking cool than talking, and where being known was more important than anything. Between a loud, busy lounge and a quiet art gallery, there was a restaurant called Lariff. People didn't come here just for the food. They came because it was hard to get in. The doors opened, and one person walked inside. He wore a hood over his head. His jeans were a little wet at the bottom. A plain black cap was pulled low so you couldn't see his eyes well. He moved quietly, like someone who knew how to walk through a room without anyone noticing. It was Keanu Reeves. He stood at the front where people waited to get a table. His hands were in the pockets of his old hoodie. "Good evening," he said kindly and gently. "I heard there might be a table open." The young lady at the front was surprised. He talked so nicely and looked so calm. But before she could say anything, someone walked up fast. You could hear the sound of her high heels clicking. Her name was Victoria Crane, the boss of Lariff. She walked like she owned the place. Her white shirt was spotless, her jacket was sharp, and she was even sharper. Victoria didn't just run the restaurant, she made it feel special. And to her, that started with how people looked. She looked at Keanu from head to toe. Hoodie, sneakers, a little bit of beard. No friends with him. No shiny clothes. Nothing that shouted, famous. She didn't even check the list of names. "I'm sorry," she said without smiling. "We're full tonight." Keanu didn't look upset. He smiled kindly. "I understand. But I was told there might be a quiet seat in the back. I don't mind waiting." Victoria gave a fake smile. "We usually want people to dress a certain way," she said, looking around, hoping someone more important would come in. Keanu just nodded politely and looked like he was ready to leave. But something about him made Victoria stop. He was so still, so calm. Like he knew something she didn't. "Actually," she said, changing her voice to sound nicer, "we do have a table in the back." She didn't take him to the pretty part of the restaurant. Instead, she led him down a hallway that was small and not shiny. Most people never saw this hallway. The big dining room behind him was full of gold lights and fancy people, but Victoria didn't look back. She just walked quickly, her heels clicking on the floor like little hammers. "This way," she said, sounding like she didn't really care. They stopped at a small table with 2 chairs. It was in a weird spot between a closet and a wall. It wasn't near the kitchen or the bathroom. It was worse, it was like nowhere. No one could see it. No one wanted to sit there. Usually, workers sat there when they needed a break. Keanu looked around. There was a plain wall next to him. Across from him, there was a shiny cabinet. Nearby, there was a cart with dusty wine glasses, half covered by a cloth. "It's private," Victoria said with a fake smile. Keanu nodded, calm as ever. "This works." He pulled out the chair and sat down slowly, like someone who knew people were watching. He took off his cap, but left the hood up. From the front, he just looked like a regular man trying to be quiet. To Victoria, that meant he didn't belong. "Someone will come soon," she said and walked away. A young worker named Oliver was standing near the bar. He looked at Keanu's table nervously, like it might explode. He whispered to Victoria, "Should I give him the regular menu?" Victoria sipped her fancy wine. "Table 17 is on the simple plan. Water only. Bread is extra." Oliver blinked. "But that's what we give people who break the rules." Victoria put down her glass and stared at him. "Exactly." Keanu sat alone, his hands folded. He didn't take out a phone. He didn't tap his fingers. He just sat there, very calm. The fancy room around him was full of soft voices, laughter, clinking glasses. everyone having fun. One lady looked at him and whispered to her friend, "Do we let normal people in now?" Oliver finally walked over with 2 glasses of water. One was clean. One looked cloudy, with a shiny film on top. Sorry, we're out of lemon," Oliver mumbled, putting down the cloudy glass like it was a bad secret. Keanu gave a polite nod, looked at the glass in the light, and quietly pushed it away. "No worries," he said. Oliver stood there, not sure if he should say something. "Menu?" Keanu asked softly. Oliver scratched his head. The boss said only 2 choices. Chicken salad or salmon. No changes. Keanu smiled kindly. "I'll try the salmon." Oliver quickly left. Keanu leaned back in his chair. Shadows were getting darker around him. His reflection showed in the shiny cabinet across the way. The workers acted like he wasn't there. And that's exactly how he wanted it. 15 minutes passed. Far away, you could hear glasses clinking and soft talking. It all sounded like a perfume floating in the air. But where Keanu sat, time felt slower. Finally, the food came. But it wasn't Oliver. It was Victoria who brought it. She walked to Keanu's table like she was a queen doing something kind. In her hands was a perfect plate, pan-fried salmon on a little yellow sauce. Some green leaves on top were already drooping from the kitchen heat. "Salmon," she said, placing the plate down a little too hard. It made a loud sound. The green leaves moved just enough to look messy. Keanu looked up. "Thank you." Victoria didn't smile back. She stared at his hoodie, still a little wet from outside. His sleeves were rolled up, and tiny old scars showed on his arms, like secret stories nobody knew. Victoria tilted her head. "I hope it's good," she said. "The chef made it a little raw. Thought someone dressed like you might enjoy sushi." She said it sweetly, but it was a little mean. Keanu looked at the fish. It was shiny under the light, too shiny. He cut into it. The outside was fine, but the middle was raw and cold. He didn't get mad. He just put down his fork and leaned back. Victoria looked at the plate like she was curious. "Oh," she said. "Some people like it rare. Strong taste. A little wild, not fancy. But still, interesting." Keanu nodded. "It's interesting, all right." Behind Victoria, a couple laughed. One man whispered to his date, "He doesn't belong here." Victoria smiled at their laughter. Then she looked back at Keanu. "If you need anything else, let me know." Keanu looked at her, calm and quiet. A clean glass of water would be fine. Her mouth twitched like she might smile, but it wasn't happy. She walked away without saying more. Soon, a different young worker came over with a plate. "They said I should bring dessert," he said. It was a slice of chocolate cake. It looked nice. Keanu took his fork, broke a piece, and stopped. Inside the cake, under the frosting, was a little rolled-up piece of paper towel. Like a prank. Or a message. He stared at it. Then I looked at Victoria, now laughing with some famous people near the bar. She hadn't made a mistake. She had done it on purpose. Keanu didn't say anything. He just put down his fork, fixed the sleeve of his hoodie, and leaned back. Across the room, Victoria kept laughing. But inside Keanu's hoodie was a small camera. It had already seen everything. The air in the restaurant changed. It was quiet, soft, still. Music still played. People still ate. But something felt different. Victoria felt it. Like the air was pressing on her chest. She looked at the man in the hoodie. He hadn't touched the cake again. He hadn't yelled or asked to see a boss. That's what scared her. He was too calm. Victoria's fingers tightened around her wine glass. She didn't like when things didn't end the way she planned. So she decided to make one last move. She grabbed a tray. On it, she placed 2 new glasses of cold water. She walked carefully, like a queen. Every step made a sound. She got to Keanu's table and smiled big. "Thought you might enjoy a refresh," she said, like she was being nice. Keanu looked up. His eyes were calm and soft, but he didn't smile. "Appreciated." As Victoria leaned to place the tray on the table, her wrist moved just a little. Too perfect. Too fast. One of the glasses tipped. And with a loud splash, a full cup of ice water spilled all over Keanu's chest. It was really cold and surprised him right away. The front of his hoodie turned dark and got soaked in just a few seconds. Water ran down his pants and made a little puddle on the seat. Ice cubes rolled on the floor, and one stopped right under his boot. "Oh no," Victoria said with a fake surprised look, putting her hand over her mouth. I'm so clumsy sometimes." All the people at the other tables went quiet. Some turned to look. A couple sitting nearby leaned in, curious. Someone tried not to laugh. Keanu didn't move. He sat still and wet. He slowly picked up his napkin. He wasn't mad. He didn't look embarrassed. He just quietly dabbed at his chest. "It happens," he said calmly. His voice wasn't loud, but something about it felt strong. He looked straight at Victoria, not at the water, not at the crowd. Victoria's smile started to fade for the first time that night. "I'll get you another towel," she said, already stepping away. She seemed nervous because he didn't yell or say much. Keanu didn't say anything back. He squeezed out the napkin over his lap, folded it, and set it down. Someone a few tables away whispered, "That guy looks familiar." "Please," another person replied. "He probably does magic tricks on TikTok." Keanu heard them, but he didn't react. He just sat there, still and quiet, like he was waiting for something. Not dessert. Please do not help. Just the truth. The cold water had gone through all his clothes. His hoodie stuck to him like another layer of skin. But he didn't move. He didn't wiggle or complain. Just silence. Victoria had left the room but was still watching from a distance. She always watched. And now she came back. She walked in fast, her high heels clicking. She carried a small checkbook. "No towel. No sorry. Just business. I'm afraid we need this table soon," she said, placing the bill down like it was something important. "We have a special event starting. Very famous guests." Her voice was soft, but her words were mean. Keanu didn't look at the bill. He looked at her. "There must be a mistake," he said calmly. "I was told I could have this table all night." Victoria tilted her head like she felt sorry for him. "Probably a mix-up," she said. "It happens when assistants handle things." She brushed off her blazer, like fixing something invisible. Then she leaned closer and said one last mean thing. "A little advice," she smiled. "Next time you want to feel important, don't dress like you're part of the background." She turned around quickly, like she was proud of her words. Keanu let out a soft breath and opened the checkbook. It listed salmon, water, and dessert. At the bottom, someone had written, "Manager's discretion applied. Limited service discount." How kind. He didn't sigh. He didn't frown. He just reached into his hoodie and pulled out a black card. It was smooth, plain, and powerful. He put it inside the checkbook and closed it. But before putting it down, he noticed a pen. He flipped the bill over, wrote something on the back, and placed the pen gently down. Then he stood up. His wet hoodie made a soft sound as it pulled away from the leather seat. He didn't fix his hair. He didn't care about the wet stain. He just walked toward the front door. People started to look again. Not because they knew who he was, just because they were curious. A woman near the entrance squinted. Her partner whispered, "Probably some YouTube guy." Keanu didn't stop. Victoria was near the front, laughing at something she had just said. She didn't notice the checkbook left quietly on table 17. Inside it, in neat writing, were the words, "Everyone remembers how you made them feel. Kr." And Victoria was about to find out just how true that was. The glass doors of the restaurant opened quietly. Nobody noticed at first. People laughed, forks clinked, and fancy wine was poured. Victoria stood by the front, smiling. She thought she had everything under control. But then a shadow appeared. Tall, come, wearing a sharp silver blue suit. No tie. A white shirt. His hair was gray and styled perfectly. The air in the restaurant changed. A waiter stopped walking. A guest dropped their spoon. Conversations stopped. Someone gasped. A woman nearly dropped her phone and whispered to her husband, "Don't look. Oh my gosh, don't look." But it's him. Victoria turned around. Her heart jumped. Her brain rushed to find a reason. Why was he here? She fixed her blazer and stepped forward quickly. "Mr. Hawke," she said, her voice high and sweet. "We weren't expecting." But Elliot Hawke didn't stop. He didn't look at her. He didn't even say hi. He walked straight to the man in the hoodie, still wet, standing near the door. Keanu Reeves. The moment broke like glass. Elliot smiled and put a hand on Keanu's shoulder, friendly and warm. "There you are," he said. "I thought I was late." Everyone stared. Victoria froze. Elliot turned to the crowd and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing something very special. The start of Invisible Dignity, a movie about the people the world ignores." Cameras clicked. Phones were raised. Victoria's face went pale. Elliot kept talking. "This man, this guy in a hoodie, is the heart of the film. Tonight wasn't an accident. It was a test. A mirror." He looked at Victoria. "Some of us didn't like what we saw." Keanu stepped forward, still soaked. "Thanks for the water," he said. "It helped me feel everything I needed to." Someone laughed, surprised. Victoria opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. Keanu's calm voice felt stronger than shouting. Elliot lifted his hands again. "This isn't about fame. It's about seeing people. Really seeing them." The room got quiet. Victoria stood there, looking like she didn't know what to do. She had tried to control the night. But now she was the bad guy in the story. Keanu stood tall. His eyes locked on hers. There was no script that could help her now. Victoria stepped forward. "Mr. Reeves. I didn't know." Keanu didn't blink. "No," he said. "You didn't try to." That stopped her. Her voice cracked. "I was just following rules. I wasn't told." "You weren't told to make fun of my clothes," Keanu said. "Or pour water on me. Or treat someone like they didn't matter." He wasn't angry. That made it worse. His quiet words were like a mirror. "I didn't," she began. He raised his hand kindly, like saying stop. And she did. Elliot stood beside him again. "I asked Keanu to come tonight without his name," he said. "No fame. No help. I wanted to see what people would do. What we got," he looked at Victoria, "was our answer." Gasps filled the room. A waiter who had ignored Keanu stared at his shoes. Another quietly deleted a group text with a joke about the wet guy at table 17. Victoria opened her mouth again, smaller this time. "It wasn't meant to be mean." A quiet voice nearby said, "I should have spoken up." It was the young hostess. Her face was pale, but she stood tall. "I knew who he was." But I let you talk me out of it. Keanu turned to her kindly. You felt something, he said. Next time, trust that. She nodded, almost crying. Elliot looked at the room one last time. This film isn't just about kindness. It's about seeing people before it's too late. Victoria took a small step back. For the first time in 6 years, the fancy restaurant didn't feel like hers anymore. She was surrounded by shiny things. But she had never looked so small. Keanu walked away from the table. Something had changed in the restaurant. It wasn't just the quiet after Mr. Hawke gave his speech. It wasn't just the way people now looked at Victoria, like she was a warning sign. It was the feeling in the air, like a big secret had been revealed. The magic was gone. Victoria stood by the mat stand. Her face looked very pale, even under her makeup. She held her clipboard like it was the only thing keeping her standing. But no one came to her anymore. No one asked her what to do. The waiters and servers walked away like the ocean pulling back from a broken ship. The checkbook was still on the table. Inside it was Keanu's card. He had written a note. Everyone remembers how you made them feel. Phones were everywhere now. People had already shared the moment online, even before the restaurant understood what was happening. One person took a video of Elliot Hawke walking in. Another showed ice water spilling on Keanu's hoodie. Someone else recorded the little smile on Victoria's face when she brought out the bad dessert. Now, the internet was watching it all, and people were talking. In a corner, Oliver, the waiter who brought the cloudy water, sat on a bench near the server's station. He looked at his apron and whispered, "I think I just gave raw salmon to John Wick." No one laughed. Not because it wasn't funny, but because it was true. And because now they understood what really happened. They hadn't just treated a famous person badly. They had treated a real person badly. And maybe they had done this to lots of people before. People who weren't famous. People no one paid attention to. Somewhere in the back, a door opened. Victoria walked through it without saying a word. She still held her clipboard tightly. Even though she left quietly, it felt like something was breaking. In her office, she sat alone in front of her computer. The screen glowed with a cold light. Emails were coming in fast. Some had all-caps titles. Owner, PR, legal. One message stood out. You're suspended. Effective immediately. Her hand slipped off the computer mouse. Back in the dining room, the young hostess stood near Keanu. She looked nervous. Her shoulders were tight, and her hands twisted together. She looked up at him with big, sorry eyes. "I'm sorry," she said softly. Keanu gave her a kind smile. "You're not the one who poured the water." "No," she said. "But I let her." Elliot Hawke turned to the girl. "Come work on a movie set," he said. "We need people who still know when something's not right." Her eyes got wide. "Me?" Keanu nodded. "You already passed the hardest test. You felt something. That's where it begins." The three of them walked to the exit. People in the restaurant whispered. Some looked sorry. Some looked amazed. There were no big lights, no angry yelling, no news reporters shouting. Just a man in a wet hoodie, walking out. And the place that had made fun of him? It had already started to fall apart. 3 days later, there was no red carpet. No fancy party. No press room in a rich hotel. Instead, the press conference for the new movie Invisible Dignity was held in a small theater in East Los Angeles. Plastic folding chairs sat in uneven rows. The lights above hummed quietly. No one was late. No one forgot. The story had already spread across the world. In the middle of the wooden stage were two things. A black hoodie, folded neatly. A navy blue baseball cap. Both sat beside a microphone. Keanu Reeves walked up to speak. He didn't wear a suit. Just a soft gray sweater, jeans, and a calm look on his face. He looked at the crowd, reporters, students, waiters, strangers. Then he talked, not like a movie star, but like someone who had seen something important. "I didn't go to that restaurant to trick anyone," he said. "I didn't want cameras or news stories. I just wanted to know what it felt like to be a regular person." He looked at the hat. And I did. The room was quiet. Not because people were bored, but because they were listening very closely. I was ignored, laughed at, got water poured on me, given food no one should eat. But the truth is, I wasn't the most important person in that room. He waited, letting the words stay in the air. It's not about being famous. It's about how we treat people, even before we know who they are. Because once the hat comes off, it's too late. You've already shown who you are. He stepped back. A soft round of claps followed. Then Hawke walked up to the microphone. He didn't read from a paper. He didn't talk about a movie. He gave me a challenge. "This film isn't about Hollywood," he said. "It's about being human. You can't buy dignity. You can't pretend to be kind. Clothes don't decide how someone should be treated." He looked around the room. His voice was strong. "If anyone has ever made you feel invisible or unimportant, you are not alone. And if you have ever looked at someone and judged them too fast, it's time to look again." He stepped away. Everyone in the audience stood up. Not because the people on stage were famous. Not because it was a big show. They stood up for something true, something the world had forgotten. On the table, the two hats stayed still. They were symbols of a test. A test the world didn't even know it was taking. If you have ever felt like the person in the hoodie, if someone ever made you feel small, or if you have ever caught yourself being unfair to someone before you knew them, leave a comment and write, "I see you." Let's fill this space with kind words. Let's remind everyone, dignity shouldn't be something people earn. It should already be theirs. Kindness isn't a prize. It's where we begin. Because you never know who someone really is until it's too late. If you liked this story, tell me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more fun adventures and mysteries. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.